Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to Speedy's Garage. Today we're going to do something, we're going to go out and have some fun. You've seen us work on the Hellcat Go Man Go quite a bit lately. We did the pin the crank, then we installed the Hellraiser 272 pulley, and then we upgraded the injectors to the ID 1000s. We've been working on the street tune, the 93 octane pump gas tune with Mike from Dyno, and we think we've just about got it dialed in. There's a couple of things, he likes to get it perfect, and so we're super conservative right now. And there's a couple of things he wants me to check that I'm not able to do driving around. He wants me to take a look at the exhaust during a wide open throttle pull, and we're gonna go over and stick it on a dyno. So we're headed to the dyno now so that we can do that. We're gonna set up a camera and record it for Mike. Him doing the email tuning, he's probably a little bit more conservative on his email tunes than he would be if he had the car in person on a dyno where he could hear it, smell it, see it, and see the exhaust and all that. The tuners use all of those senses, we'll call them, to dial the car in, and so I'm basically going to have to be his eyes and ears while we're on the dyno today to tell him what I see and what I hear, and that'll help him fine tune and make the last couple of tweaks to the car. We could probably leave it as is. It's extremely powerful, more than I can use on the street for sure, but again, Mike likes to have them perfect. So we're headed to the dyno. I'm going to take you guys with me, but first we're going to put some fresh 93 in the tank.
Service fresh and ready to grab and go. It doesn't get any better than that.
Hi there, you're all here today.
So one thing I want to mention, because this gets to be a point of contention for a lot of people, a dyno is just a tuning tool. Now, it does give you a horsepower number and a torque number, and it's really intended to be used so that if you say I took the car stock through the dyno, made a few pulls, and we get our kind of our average number. You usually do 2 or 3 pulls and then you average them. That gives time for the heat and everything to get in the car. And then we made some changes and we went back to that same dyno. Has to be the same one to really be comparative. And we see a difference. Let's say we increase 100 horsepower or something, then we know the changes that we made were positive. It doesn't mean technically that we really gained 100 horsepower. It's probably close in most cases. The technology on these is pretty good, but you have multiple dynometer manufacturers, and so you've got Mustang, you've got Superflow, you've got Dynojet, and there's an algorithm that's used. It's basically a big steel wheel, and I'll ask the guys down here to explain it a little bit better than I probably can, but there's a big steel wheel that has a certain circumference or diameter, and as the wheel turns, it knows how fast it's turning, how big the diameter of the wheel is, and it calculates torque based on, this is the way I understand it, calculates torque based on how fast that wheel is turning, and then it extrapolates from that horsepower. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't put a ton of weight in dyno numbers. I always see people want to compare dyno sheets, and you talk to people and they say, I got a 1,000 horsepower dyno sheet or whatever. Well, I always want to know, what does it run at the track? Because that's really going to tell the tale. You look at what it runs at the track in the DA that it made the run in, and then you can really determine what your horsepower is. If you're running 130 miles an hour in the quarter mile, you're probably somewhere around 650 horsepower to the tires. If you're running 135 miles an hour in the quarter mile, you're probably somewhere around, I don't know, what, 720-ish, something like that. So as the mile per hour goes up, and you look at the mile per hour, the ET is really a result of how hard you can launch the car without spinning the tires and all that. Your mile per hour in the quarter mile is really pretty much based on just how much horsepower you have. So keep that in mind, and it's horsepower to weight. Obviously, you could have 1,000 horsepower and the car weigh 6,000 pounds, and it's obviously not going to be as fast as a car that has 1,000 horsepower and weighs 3,000 pounds. So you have to take that into account too. But your mile per hour tells the tale of the quarter mile. And so in our case, we're actually going to use the dyno as a tuning tool. I'm going to be able to keep an eye on the exhaust, see if we see any little puffs of smoke at wide open throttles, what we're going to be keeping an eye on. And what that's going to tell us is if there's any knock. If there's any knock, you'll see it as a little puff of smoke out of the exhaust, and it should correlate to short-term knock retard in the log. If we don't see either, we know we're in good shape. And so I'll be sharing this data with Mike at Dyno, as I mentioned before, and then we'll make probably a tweak or two based on what we see today on the dyno, and we should be good to go for our 93 pump gas tune. Okay, so we're at Sky Performance. That's who's dyno in the car today. We got it all set up and ready to go. We're going to see what it makes with the Hellraiser 272 pulley and the ID 1000 injectors. Obviously we got Mike from OST Dyno doing the tuning. I've got some guesses to how much power it's going to make, but I'm not going to make any predictions. The dyno is just a tuning tool, as I mentioned before, but we've gained 5 pounds of boost, so keep that in mind. I think it's about, let's say, 20 horsepower, maybe 25 horsepower per pound, and so you can do the math on that. You've seen some stock Hellcat dynos on a dyno jet, and I think you can figure that out. A lot of nice cars here at Sky Performance. They've got several Corvettes that look like they're set up for racing. We got this one here. We got a turbo 350Z. Pretty nice Camaro getting some work done to it. More Corvettes. Pretty full shop. And there's this beautiful Supra. I'm told it's owned by one of the owners of a local Toyota dealership. And it's actually just got the stock twin turbos on it, but it is really pretty. Micah at OST would appreciate this one. It's a Skyline in here. Kind of see what they're working on with it. Pretty nice setup. Okay, so with a quick tour out of the way, let's get started on these dyno pulls. So there you go. The car made about what I expected it to make. There's the numbers there. Show you the dyno graphs. As with all dynos, they're all a little bit finicky, so it took us a minute to get the dyno calibrated correctly. They usually have a little bit of trouble reading RPM for some reason, and so we had to make an adjustment there, but the power numbers, as you can see, all kind of fall out to be the same. It made SAE corrected right about 750 horsepower and 750 foot-pounds of torque, which honestly is what I expected. I knew it would make about 100 more horsepower than a stock Hellcat because of the additional boost that we now have with the 2.72 pulley. So the purpose of that dyno run, or the dyno runs themselves, was not to find out how much horsepower the car made. Like I said before, I'm more interested in what it's going to do at the track, but it allowed me to set a camera up and videotape the exhaust and actually be able to watch that and analyze that. And so that way we will know if any short-term knock that we see in the logs is real or false. And what I can say, I've done a quick review of the logs just at the dyno shop, so I haven't thoroughly analyzed them yet, but what I will say is we're seeing just a tick of short-term knock retard right at 4,000 RPM, and that's been a pretty frequent area that I have seen it during our testing, and it would even do it stock. So there's something right in that area that is the frequency, or there's something that the knock sensors are picking up. I looked at the video of the exhaust. I didn't see anything that would indicate to me that there was any real short-term knock occurring. I believe that's false. It's probably supercharger noise or something along those lines. I'm going to send those videos to Mike and let him look at them. He's the expert, and if there's an adjustment that needs to be made, he may go in and just desensitize the knock sensors just a little bit right at that area if he determines that the knock retard in the log is false. And so what I've seen a lot of tuners do is they will just select the entire knock sensor table, and this car is pretty unique in the way the knock sensors are set up. It's got 2 knock sensors, one on each side of the engine, but it's got 8 tables, 1 per cylinder, and there's what is called knock sensor voltage thresholds. Try to say that 10 times fast. And it basically tells the knock sensors above a certain threshold when to report in that it's short-term knock. And each cylinder is a little bit different. I have seen some other tunes, and I've reviewed, you know, the way they were set up, where it looked like the tuner selected the entire table for each cylinder and multiplied it times 3. So 300% more. And that seems crazy to me. I've seen other more respected tuners multiply it times 1.3, which would be 30% more. Mike hasn't touched mine at all. I mean, maybe 10% in like 2 little spots in the table, but certainly not the whole table, and not, you know, double or triple or 30% more or anything. He just has a different way of doing things. And there's your knock sensor voltages, and then there's your knock window as well, and that's the, you know, I think it's the angle of the crank as it's turning, and when to report and when not to report. It gets pretty complicated when you start talking about all of that. But Mike's got mine set up pretty conservatively for 93 octane. It's making 750 horsepower, you know, as we saw on 93 octane, which is healthy. We're going to run it at the track here real soon on 93 octane to see what it'll do there, and that will really tell the tale. And I'll come back and provide you guys an update on how we actually do at the track to compare it to what we saw on the dyno today. So again, the SAE corrected number, if you care about that, was 750 horsepower right about, and 750 foot-pounds of torque. So that's it for today. We're going to get home, get Go Man Go cleaned up, and prep for the track. We're going to the track here really soon to do that 93 octane tune testing. I'll let you know how that goes. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Hope you did. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. It's at Speedy's_garage, as well as our website, www.speedysgarage.net. If you're local to the Middle Tennessee area, check out Sky Performance. They've got a pretty nice DynoJet dyno over there, and we're really laid back and easy guys to work with. They didn't rush me in and out like, you know, some shops have done in the past. We're happy to sit around and chat about hot rodding a little bit and tell me about some of the projects they had in their shop there. So check out Sky Performance if you're in the Middle Tennessee area, and hopefully I'll see you out there.